Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your daily source of Black news, views, and Black opinions. Today is Friday, April 15th. I'm Mimi Brown.
I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo, and on today's report, should an estimated $1.6 trillion in student loan debt be wiped out? Find out who's pushing back on the idea of student loan cancellation, as it might likely lead to inflation. Meanwhile, sanctions have been placed on Russia's economy, but is it enough to stop a possible cyber attack on the U.S. in the midterms? Then, a flaw in the Affordable Care Act known as the family glitch is finally getting an overhaul. We've got an expert joining us who's going to walk us through the steps.
Plus, Whoopi Goldberg is taking a break from hosting The View. What made the host take an extended leave of absence? And it's Friday, and comedian Melanie Camacho is joining us to help us break it down. That's right, we talk about this week's topics, trending topics, with a side eye. We have all that and so much more. This is our voice and our truth, so let's get it.
The question about what to do with an estimated $1.6 trillion in student loan debt is a growing headache for Democrats, especially at a time when families are struggling with so many high costs due to inflation. That's why progressives on the left, like Senator Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Senator Elizabeth Warren, are calling for Biden to cancel up to $50,000 in student loan debt. But more moderate Democrats argue that student loan cancellation is regressive and likely to add to inflation. But while they have strong opposition, moderate Democrats are leery about bashing the idea publicly because they don't want to hurt the party's chances during the midterm elections. Proponents of student loan cancellation, however, argue that it's a social justice issue because many Black and minority families possess less wealth compared to white families and are being weighed down with student loan debt.
I don't care. I'm sorry, Mimi, I know you had something to say here,
That's
but
okay.
I want to hop in. As a person who has a ridiculous amount of student loan debt, I don't want to hear that student loan debt is regressive. I want to hear that it's going to lead to inflation because there are so many other things that are also going to lead to inflation. I know that we have a war that's going on right now. Student loan debt is at the top of the list. It needs to remain at the top of the list. That's point blank, period. Joe Biden, Senator Elizabeth Warren always says that Joe Biden, with the flick of a pen, can cancel $10,000, $50,000 in student loan debt. I really don't think, I don't care. I really don't care. He can make it happen.
You're absolutely right, Demi. He can make it happen. We have seen again how he sent money to Ukraine, right? So why can't we cancel student loan debt and help raise people out of poverty, especially Black and brown people, right?
Yeah.
So, I think that, and if they go into the midterms and they, don't get this together, they're going to have a really hard time because I can't see them not having this talking point to use when the Republicans have already said, they think that they're going to take it this time.
Yeah, they need to have more talking points. He has accomplished some things, but we're talking about the George Floyd Policing Act, right? The Voting Rights Bill. We're talking about student loans. It's necessary. How else can we put money back into the economy? Can we close that generational wealth gap that we have between people of color and white people? We need to make sure this gets done. We're all in this country together. So hopefully he has to find a pen that works somewhere to get it done.
Romeo, I love that you say that there has to be at least one pen. And I mean, you can use my pen. Honestly, literally, I have a pen if he just needs a pen, if that's what it is. But I'm not threatening the Biden administration, but just know that this is going to be a key point for Black Americans. It doesn't matter females, women, because females, men, we all have different struggles and there's different levels. But this is for all Black Americans. This is going to hold the Biden administration back in the midterms and in the presidential election again. So, take it as you want.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, Russia is likely to deploy a range of cyber weapons on the U.S. and its election systems during this year's midterm election cycle. This news comes as tensions continue to escalate amid ongoing wars that's happening right now in Ukraine. Moscow has so far shown cyber restraint against the U.S. despite the growing sanctions that have damaged Russia's economy. But experts predict that the Kremlin will unleash a range of cyber weapons in an attempt to interfere with the 2022 midterms. They expect everything from disinformation campaigns to efforts to hack the election system to take place.
A recent CBS News YoungGov poll found that President Biden's approval rating has dropped to an all-time low. 42% of Americans approve of Biden's performance, while 58% disapprove. Most are frustrated over the economic crisis and soaring inflation. Experts say Biden's falling ratings could bring trouble for Democrats in the upcoming midterm elections.
And the city of Springfield, Massachusetts, is agreeing to carry out reforms to resolve claims that its narcotics officers routinely used excessive force. A Justice Department investigation found that officers in the Springfield Police Department, its now disbanded narcotics unit, engaged in a pattern or practice of using excessive force, routinely punching people in the face and often facing no discipline. U.S. Assistant Attorney Kristen Clark says the consent decree will help restore the public's trust in the police. She also says that the Justice Department is pursuing similar probes in other cities like Minneapolis, Louisville, and Phoenix.
Here's an update to a story that we told you about last week. The Republican chairman of a Virginia electoral board is now stepping down after a racially charged Facebook post that he made about Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. The former chairman of the electoral board in Hampton, he resigned 2 days after his social media post was discovered. Now, the governor of Virginia and other GOP lawmakers, they called for his removal. In the post from February 2021, he targeted Austin and retired Army Lieutenant General Russell Honoré, both of whom are black, in a post using the N-word and calling for a good public lynching. Now, his resignation, however, came after the governor of Virginia called for his removal from the board. The Republican Party of Hampton released their own statement on Facebook, along with a screenshot of the offending post, saying the unacceptable racist language has no place in the GOP or the Commonwealth.
And the Justice Department and civil rights groups have reached a settlement, partially resolving a series of lawsuits following a protest outside the White House. Now, you may remember this. It happened back in 2020. Federal law enforcement, they violently dispersed a demonstrating crowd with tear gas. The incident happened nationwide, the protests against police in the summer of 2020. A large demonstration gathered near Lafayette Square outside the White House. Former Attorney General Barr ordered law enforcement officers to clear out the protests right before Trump walked across the street for a photo opportunity at a history church. The Biden administration now agreeing to make changes on how the Secret Service and U.S. Park Police handled large protests, nearly after 2 years of litigation that began while former President Trump was in office.
On this Good Friday, another milestone for the Affordable Care Act. That's right, last month marked 12 years since it became law, but there's a critical loophole that's barring millions of families from the health care they need. This flaw also showcases the persistent and growing health care disparities gap in America. The Biden administration is proposing to make insurance more affordable to millions more families by closing the loopholes in the Affordable Care Act. It's called the family glitch. Joining us to talk about it is Jassy Chisley. That's right, 25-year-old veteran of the healthcare industry and author of the book Healthy Disruption, which focuses on broken healthcare system and its connection to the underserved communities in the United States. Welcome to the show on this Good Friday. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Great to be with you, Romeo.
Let's get right to it. What is the family glitch and why is it such a financial bombshell for families?
Well, this is landmark legislation, and I thought it was apropos that Obama was able to get back to the White House to really celebrate with one of his most staunch supporters at the time, the vice president at the time, Joe Biden, who said, it's a big expletive deal, and it really is. I think from our perspective, though, there are certain glitches, certain flaws within the Affordable Care Act that have existed for quite some time. We know that inherently your zip code is far more greater determinant of your health than your genetic code. And that is something that we want to make sure that we address systematically and systemically across the country. One of the things from the family glitch, it gives opportunity for more white families, more esteemed families from different communities to actually access different things and different care, those that without chronic diseases. And it's typically those that are of color that have the 1, 2, 3, 4 chronic diseases like diabetes or COPD or CHF. And those are the things that we need to address moving forward within the Affordable Care Act, because that's what's going to sort of even the playing field.
Well, can you tell our soulmates how many people does this glitch impact in the United States, if you can give us a number?
Yeah, we're still researching that. I think, given the fact that the Affordable Care Act is fluid, and we've actually had all-time high participation throughout the last 3 or 4 years, and thank goodness, given the pandemic and on the heels of the pandemic, it certainly closed the gap for those that without health insurance. But I think it's still sort of unknown how much the family glitch will impact a lot of families. It's estimated that those that are on the actual Affordable Care Act or on the platform on the exchange will actually feel it. Those that are of color and don't have access to affordable health care will feel it that much more. So it's something that I know that the administration is working to address. Given the opposition, though, with the Republican Party and some of the other things, I think it's certainly going to sort of widen before it actually gets better.
Okay, so yeah, we're talking about the Biden administration, what they proposed to fix the flaw to Affordable Care Act. How will it impact the bottom line of our viewers and whether they'll be able to afford to add family members to their job-based health care plans?
Yeah, so I think in several ways. One of the things that, and when I was on for Romeo, we were having, I think, a very lucid discussion about some of the things that your viewers may need to do and your audience may need to do. So number one, I think it's still the same things. Number one, it's actually research your plan. Choose a plan that's right for you and your family. Choose a plan that gives you the widest access to the widest networks for the physicians that you need to see, not just primary care, but those specialists as well, whether it be a cardiologist, an endocrinologist, a pulmonologist. Those are very, very important. So we have to make sure that we keep that at top of mind.
Agreed.
Number two, understand what your family needs and may need in the future. Try to be as anticipatory as possible. Again, while it's serendipitous that we've been working through a lot of these issues over the last, 10, 12 years, there still are some glitches. So we have to make sure that not only are we engaged, but we're actually making sure that we're addressing these things in real time, specific, and this is the key word, specific to our family and their needs. And then thirdly and finally, make sure that you connect with your doctor, your PCP, and let them know what plan you've chosen.
Agreed. Okay, in the meantime, if someone finds himself without insurance or inadequate insurance to meet their needs and the needs of their families, what can they do about that?
Absolutely. It varies state by state. Obviously, with Medicaid and the ACA, Obamacare, as it were, being an extension of Medicaid, make sure that they research what is available in their state. And there are opportunities to fill gaps with what's called gap insurance. So research that in your own particular area, your own municipality, your own state, because there are opportunities to close that gap if, in fact, you don't have the access that you need and deserve as it relates to healthcare. Again, a lot of the things that we're seeing are systemic. They mirror the American society, and that's something that we definitely explore within the book.
As a healthcare executive for the past 25 years, what other concerns do you have with the current healthcare industry, especially ones the COVID pandemic has exposed?
Absolutely. We've studied the statistics. I think you and your team within the Black Report have really exposed a lot of things, and we know a lot to be true. I'm just concerned that we're not addressing it. So obviously, we Black people represent about 12.7% of the population. However, we are more than 1/3 of the deaths as it relates to COVID. That also being said, that highlights the access issues, and that also highlights a lot of the opportunity for us to get a little bit more healthy and address what we know to be true: eating healthy, exercise, controlling our mental state, making sure that we've got access to all of the social determinants of health, like housing, education, even the digital divide. All that access to information gives us power and empowers us to be much more healthy as a country, as a nation, and in particular as a Black community.
So as we discuss, flaws in the Affordable Care Act, which, as President Obama said years ago, is not perfect. It has done some good.
Right.
How has the ACA impacted underserved communities, both good and bad?
Well, I think from a good standpoint, it is certainly landmark legislation that needed to occur. And I think it took temerity and courage under the previous two administrations ago, opportunity to really understand what it was going to do to impact the economy and what it was going to do to actually impact those that were, quote unquote, marginalized or disadvantaged. We know that before the Affordable Care Act, there were nearly 50 million people that were uninsured in this country, this being the most wealthiest country in the world. We know that we spend nearly $4 trillion per year, per annum, on healthcare. And we know that the average family of four spends over $10,000 per year just on their healthcare alone. So all that said, we know we had an opportunity to lower costs and widen access. We've done that. Right now, there's roughly less than 15 million people uninsured that we can count. We know that healthcare costs are coming down, or at least staying steady and plateauing as much as possible. So this was an opportunity. This was the stopgap we needed. But what we need to do now, Romeo, is really ensure that we widen that access and make sure that it's not just about coverage, but it's about quality as well, quality of care.
Agreed. Okay, the ACA seemed to be a way to fix the system, but what else needs to be done to fix healthcare as we have keeping this country's promise to hardworking yet underserved communities? You spoke a little bit on some, but what else can you add to that needs to be done?
Yeah, I think it's healthcare is so interrelated, and if you're in the healthcare industry, it's everybody's business. And you guys, I think we're just having a wonderful conversation about student loans. I'm one of many that has student loan debt as well, and I think that's just opportunity because everything is correlated and interconnected. So if we can address a lot of the ills of society, mainly through education, through housing, through information, through food insecurities and those kinds of things, and make sure that the Black community in particular has access to all of those things, ironically, our healthcare will improve. I always like to say our health is our wealth. The wealth gap certainly exists because I think the health gap is so wide in this country as well. So if we can, whatever we can do to mitigate that, that's opportunity for us to make sure that we're not only becoming healthy as a country and physically and mentally, but we're becoming more wealthy as a country, particularly as a Black community as well.
Jesse, I appreciate you checking in, giving our soulmates hope when it comes to healthcare. Have a great day. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Happy Friday.
Yes, sir.
A North Carolina man is charged with harassing Black civil rights attorney Bakari Sellers. Police say Grant Olson Jr. sent about 65 threatening messages to Sellers on social media. The messages included racial slurs, the killing of Black people, and Olson stating that he was armed. He was arrested this week and charged with stalking and intimidation due to political opinion. Sellers, who was a CNN pundit, released a statement thanking law enforcement for the arrest.
And the district attorney in Union Parish, Louisiana, is finally indicating the intention to request a special grand jury in the death of Ronald Green. The DA says that he was holding off on moving forward with state charges because the federal government was investigating. Now, he cited their vast resources could do a better and more thorough investigation. He also says that there is new evidence in the case that indicates that the federal government was promised to share with him. Green died after leading officials and officers on a high-speed chase that concluded in a crash. State troopers say that he died in that accident. However, the video evidence shows Green pleading for his life and apologizing as officers brutally beat the 49-year-old man.